pal, of course, is Jonathan Coachman. You see me with him on Mondays driving the line. Of course, he has his pro wrestling show as well, Behind the Turnbuckle. Coach, always good to have you on the show. How are you today? Nice to see you as always.
Brother, I like the reverse of our roles here, but I got to tell you that you're super into wrestling. I'm back in it, and I'm really excited about SummerSlam. I love It's Still Real to me, and so I'm ready to chop it up for you today. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
You said it right.
Got it right. Okay,
SummerSlam's going to be great this week, and I'm very into it. You know, I think I don't know if it's next year, certainly not this weekend, but they're really trying to make SummerSlam, it's always been, like they've always tried to make SummerSlam the WrestleMania of the summertime, but it's never really felt like that to me because WrestleMania is WrestleMania. But I think it's either next year or the year after where SummerSlam is moving to 2 nights the way WrestleMania is. That to me, now you're giving it the feel of a summertime WrestleMania to me.
I agree with you on that aspect of it. I've just never been bought into the 2-night thing. And maybe it's I spent 15 years there. I worked 12 WrestleManias. And to me, when you build it up like this year, I really felt like other than the main events that we had to get through night 1 to get to the payoff on night 2. And I understand what they're trying to do. Now, 2003, I turned heel at SummerSlam, and that was a 1-night event. And if they're trying to do that 60,000, I know it doubles the tickets, and I get all that from a financial standpoint. But I really feel like sometimes they struggle, whether it's a 3-hour Raw or a 2-night pay-per-view or PLE, because there's not enough talent right now, in my opinion, Zaz, not enough talent to fill up 2 nights. And I thought the crowd was kind of dead at WrestleMania because if you had it all in 1 night, now I think they know they're going to get the payoff at the end. And that's something that Vince McMahon, like him or hate him, always taught us. It's about the payoff at the end and building it up. And when you have 2 nights, I don't think you can do that. But again, some people love it. So that's just my opinion.
I love the 2 nights. It keeps it from being the first night where, I went with my son to WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, and it's a 7-hour show. You get there for the kickoff, and we're exhausted by the end, So I like splitting it up into the 2 nights. The only problem is
but let me ask, but why does it have to be that, Zaz? We were always taught it was like this, that it's not a reward. You earn your spot. And now I feel like it's a reward that everybody gets to have a match on the show. Everybody gets to be a part of it. And to me, that doesn't cause the competition that I'm used to from my era.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at it from a fan perspective where I just want more. Like, give me 2. What's better than 1 show? 2 shows is better than 1 show, So from a fan perspective, I get what you're saying. You don't need to pigeonhole everybody onto a card. Maybe everybody doesn't deserve it. But I don't care about that. The only thing better than 1 wrestling show to me is 2 wrestling shows.
I know. I get it. It's a hard balance.
So SummerSlam this weekend is going to be great. Well, I'll talk to you about a couple matches here, but I want to hit on a couple general things and get your thoughts on these. So this past week, the Go Home Raw for SummerSlam, and they opened the show with CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. But the part that really stood out to me was in the middle of the show, they showed behind the scenes. And who was showing up to the event just to kind of hang out backstage? Governor Jesse Ventura, which Jesse Ventura, you want to talk about my childhood. Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. Holy shit, he played such a huge role in my childhood, and it feels like it's been forever since he's been involved in WWE. And so I saw this quote here from CM Punk. This was from yesterday. CM Punk was on the SI Media podcast with Jimmy Traina, and there's a picture of Punk and Jesse shaking hands after the show, all right? And CM Punk says, quote, I saw Governor Ventura absolutely 100% blown away. One of the coolest things that has ever happened to me in my life is when he tells me he saw that I came back and he said, the place must have changed. If Punk is back, I'll go back. Give me some thoughts on that.
First of all, can you not dress up for the occasion, Jesse the Body Ventura? I thought he looked sloppy. To me, I've read, I hate dirt sheets, first of all, but if you spend any time in the WWE, despise them. But I've been reading things that maybe he'd come back in some capacity. I didn't know it'd be a one-off. But for CM Punk to say that, he is an icon. And part of I feel like he still owes me money because he took Vince to court all those years ago, and every contract that we had, it stated in there we don't get money off the home videos because of the lawsuit Jesse the Body Ventura had to have. But he is a legend, and to wrestlers in the business, he's always going to be a legendary guy because he did it all. He wrestled, he was then an announcer, and then he got out of the business. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of is the few of us that have got out and got to a high level somewhere else. So for CM Punk, he's kind of a Jesse the Body Ventura type of guy. Against the mold, will always win against, really kind of hurt himself financially, career-wise for a really, really long time. So I understand why he would say that, and I respect CM Punk for where he is right now. And I've met certain guys, Zaz, that I watched when I was a child, and it mesmerized me, and other people probably wouldn't care. But it did for me, so I understand where CM Punk's coming from.
So when someone like Jesse Ventura, though, says things must be different if Punk was willing to go back, like, what do you think he means by that?
Well, what he means by that is CM Punk was like scorched earth when he left, and he buried everybody. And I was really close to Vince for a long time. Everybody knows that I was on the private jet for over 3 years, all of that. But Vince always had a spot for guys that could do business. And he rehired Stone Cold 4 or 5 times. He rehired JR 4 or 5 times. But the way CM Punk went out, for Jesse to say things would have changed, he means that Vince never would have brought CM Punk back. Not in a million years. No matter how much money projected CM Punk could make for the company, he never would have done it because of all the guys that CM Punk buried on the way out the door. I think Triple H manages in a much better fashion than Vince did. And Vince is the only boss that I ever knew there. And I feel a little guilty at times because we all fed into it, meaning you want to keep your job. You're managed by fear. And I think Triple H is starting to change that a little bit by bringing certain guys like Cody a couple of years ago and now CM Punk back over from AEW because he knew creatively if you do the right things, you can make money. And I think we're seeing that with CM Punk in a main match of SummerSlam and Cody in the main event.
Did you ever get to a place where you were comfortable with creative ideas to Vince, like pitching creative ideas to him?
Yeah, I was very comfortable because I was in his office and in his meetings a lot. Where I was way too comfortable was saying yes to everything that they brought to me. Because now probably once a week, twice a week, I'll have people that post videos from something I did 20 years ago. I'm like, oh, A, we couldn't do that today. B, I would never do it today. But yeah, I pitched a lot of things. And Vince was great about taking it all in. And even if he hated the idea, he'd be like, okay, pal, we'll think it over. The problem is, Zaz, that, and it might have changed now. I don't know. I'm not backstage. But you had Vince, then you had, whoever the lead writer is, Brian Gerwitz for a long time, who's Rock's guy. And then you got a bunch of guys that have no opinion, like guys that they hire at 22 years old to come and sit in a room and run around and hand out sheets. It's not a legitimate writer's room like you'd have at Friends or a real TV show. So it was always very top heavy. And we always hated that because Vince dictated everything. And I didn't feel like that when you pitch something that it had a real chance to be done or to get over, as we say, unless Vince absolutely loved it. Nobody could talk to him and say, Vince, give this a chance. And we just did an interview with Vince Russo, and he told us the idea of Stone Cold 20 years ago. Did you know, Zaz, that Vince didn't even know that Stone Cold cut that promo 316 because he was too busy doing something else? So then Vince pitched, hey, we've got to get behind this. Why? This is not going to work. What are you talking about? And had to explain to Vince why Austin 316 was going to change the trajectory of the company and of Stone Cold's career.
Amazing. That's got to be like the all-time this shit just fell into our laps.
Correct. No doubt.
Story,
no doubt.
Right? Where, because it's Jake Roberts, who's a Bible thumper at this point in his career, and Stone Cold just kicked his ass in one King of the Ring, and he just, off the cuff, drops Stone Cold 316 says, I just whipped your ass. There's definitely never been a more organic moment, I would imagine.
No, there hasn't been, and I think it's one thing for people to understand and fans of wrestling, because we get caught up in what we see right now. So most people think that Stone Cold was this huge star for 30 years. He had like 3 other gimmicks that never worked, and then all of a sudden he gets that, and that's why I used to run a room on the road where I would help guys with their promos and character development. I really like talent coaching as well. And I would tell them, you never know what's going to stick. Throw 10 things against the wall. The New Day, back when I was there, Kofi was on his way out. He was doing this Jamaican accent type of character. And now you hit with New Day, and now they just celebrated their 10-year anniversary. They've made millions of dollars, and they're iconic as a group. You never know what's going to stick. But if you don't try something, you really never know. And now that Vince is gone, I think if guys have a little more guts or balls, if we want to say that, they can go in and pitch these ideas, and you better have a reason to back it up. Don't just pitch something, but you never know what's going to hit. And he's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
So also in the news right now, or at least the internet wrestling community, you got this picture floating around with Tony Khan and Shane McMahon. Now, look, Coach, I have no idea what your relationship was or is like with Shane McMahon. Give me your thoughts on I mean, I don't understand how someone is allowed to take that photo and then put it in a spot where it gets posted for everybody to see, unless Tony Khan wanted that. And B, I got to be honest with you. Is the wrestling fan clamoring to see Shane McMahon again? Your thoughts?
I think this is a really big deal. I really, really do. Not because of the first name, because of the last name. And people forget, when I turned heel SummerSlam 2003, the person I attacked with a chair was Shane McMahon. When I learned how to work in the ring, I would go down to the bottom of the hill. We had a building that had a ring in it from the TV studio, and I learned by training with Shane McMahon. I did Livewire, a show when I first got there, with Shane McMahon's wife. So I've always liked him a lot. He's a really good dude. He would come and go because his relationship with his dad was never perfect, was never good. And when he left the last time, understand this, Zaz, and imagine if it was your sister. He hated the fact that Triple H was not only dating his sister, but then married his sister. And when he left that one time, he said there's too many McMahons in the chicken coop, so to speak. And he was talking about his sister and his dad. And I've never seen a dad treat kids not like kids. You know what I mean? Like, if it was I have a son and a daughter, and I would do anything to make sure if I had that kind of money, they were well taken care of and they would stay in the business. Vince was never like that. And I do believe this: Shane never really has loved the wrestling business. He likes business. And so when you talk about that picture, that was taken for a reason. It was posted for a reason. If you look at Shane McMahon's statement, he said, "We had a really great meeting. I saw Bully Ray on Busted Open," and he said, "You don't have a meeting unless you're talking about business." So I don't know if Vince has cut him off or not, but I know this, that if he would come to AEW, that would be the infusion that they would need from an attention perspective. I don't know, Zaz, if they would sell that many more tickets right away, but you'd get the attention. And right now, they need a TV deal. They need attention. They need something that's going to bring them up. And when you put a McMahon across the fence against Triple H, who I know that Triple H and Shane McMahon have never gotten along. Now you got those two guys, and it's no longer just a fanboy that's running AEW. You have a legitimate guy who, I've always said this, character-wise, top 5 of all time if he wasn't Vince's son. He has guts far beyond anybody I've ever seen. Some of the greatest bumps in the history of the business. But he's never been great on the mic. Not as great as I thought he could be. And I'm very critical because I feel like, I'm pretty good on the mic. You're really good on the mic. So to wrap up my take, this is a big deal. That picture was taken and posted for a reason. And I would be shocked if they went all that way, met in Texas, and they don't do something. And let me ask you this, Zaz. How much money do you think Shane could ask for?
I think you could probably ask for whatever he wants.
You're right. And when you have a dad that's worth over $10 billion, who literally will give Tony Khan whatever he wants, that company's not making money. They don't have a TV deal. They're selling 3,000 tickets. They don't even do house shows. So
Yeah.
we've seen that that doesn't make any sense. But he makes so much money somewhere else. It's kind of like, being an owner of a professional team. You spend here to win over here. And I think that's what this is about. I would be shocked if they don't figure out something. Now, they have to do it right. It's got to mean something. But that picture meant something to me.
Let's talk a little bit about what could happen this weekend at SummerSlam. I know people are very excited at the possibility of Roman Reigns returning. He's definitely returning. Solo called him out. I think it's more likely he returns at the Raw after SummerSlam as opposed to at SummerSlam. I think that main event is more about Cody and Solo. I don't really know how you present. Like, I have a vision in my head of the way they're going to bring Roman back, and it's going to be Paul Heyman who just comes out and does, "Excuse me," and then everybody's like, "Holy shit, Roman's back." And then he reintroduces Roman, and I don't think you could do that like because remember, Roman's intro is very slow. He doesn't run to the ring. There's none of that. So it's not like he could come down and interfere in the main event with Solo. That's why I don't see it happening at SummerSlam. I see it happening at Raw after SummerSlam. But my question to you is, A, how amazing is that babyface pop going to be for Roman when he returns? I think it's going to be all time. And B, what's the creative process like leading up to this, such a massive moment that they know they have to nail?
They have to nail it. First and foremost, I was there for the biggest pop I've ever heard in my life, and that was Triple H returning at Madison Square Garden after he tore his quad and was out for 8 months. I think this could rival that. Raphael, our numbers guy on DTL, he made the odds for my bookie, and it's minus 400, I believe, that Roman Reigns returns and gets into the ring. So the world thinks that's going to happen. The creative of it is, and this is, I was only in these meetings a few times, but man, they are fascinating because they throw so many different angles and so many different perspectives. I would have loved to have been in the meetings leading up to WrestleMania and all the fights and the yelling with Rock and Roman Reigns. But here's what I think is going to happen. And if I'm right, oh my God, this could be amazing. Paul Heyman, best mind in the business, says it's not freaking close. And having Solo use all of the same stuff, acknowledge me, I'm ahead of the table, all that kind of stuff, it seems disrespectful until Roman Reigns comes back and he gets involved somehow. Cody still wins, and then he goes to Solo, and basically somehow they get it over that he told Solo, "You're not going to get this. I'm going to beat the guy who beat me at WrestleMania." He gives him a hug. "You're all good. You did exactly what I told you to do." So he gets over on Cody, and Cody keeps the title, and then he takes his spot back at the head of the table that Solo's just been keeping warm, and that would elevate him even higher and more of a boss than he was before. I think it's going to be a combination of those things. But if you had a camera in the room as they discuss how they're going to bring him back, I think that'd be an incredible docuseries by itself.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
Punk and McIntyre this Saturday night is the match that I'm looking forward to the most.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have not laid hands on each other. This feud has been going on for a little more than 6 months. All right, it technically started where they were able to make it an angle where McIntyre actually injured Punk in Royal Rumble. So they were able to make a whole angle out of it. So we're talking 6 months. This has been going on, and a combination mostly of Punk being hurt and now the stipulation that they can't touch each other until the match. We've had an old school 6-month feud where neither guy has really laid a hand on each other. I mean, that's my childhood right there. The build to that. Can you have a feud of the year where we go 6 months without any physicality? Because I think we're seeing it.
Well, we are, and you have to. To me, Drew is one of the bright, one of the top 3 stars in the company right now. And if you've ever got to meet him, oh my God, you talk about a guy, and this is what we were talking about with Stone Cold Steve Austin. People forget Drew McIntyre 15 years ago was basically out of the business. Nobody wanted him. Nobody said he could do anything. And now he's embraced his character, embraced social media, started using social media just like The Rock did. It's free. Utilize it. And then you got CM Punk, who is as polarizing for whatever reason as may have ever been a superstar. But here's why they haven't touched. And to me, it was like wah, wah, wah. When, Adam Pearce has had, I mean, are you kidding me? I was a GM at one point, and I was never had this kind of power. But to say you can't touch each other, now the fans, you see what happened? They sat down. They wanted to fight. They wanted something. And then you got Seth. To me, Seth is a top 5 or 10 guy still. You don't have a match for him. You got to make him the guest referee. So to me, it is Drew, because Seth, he hates CM Punk way more than he hates Drew. For them, it's a professional rivalry. With CM Punk and Seth, it's real. It is personal. So to me, there's only one way this thing can go, and Seth kind of screws over CM Punk, helps Drew win. Drew says, I didn't need your help winning, so that pisses him off, so they're still good with the rivalry, and now CM Punk can go right after Seth Rollins as we head for the 3 months into Survivor Series. But those 3 guys have been awesome, but at some point, we've got to acknowledge that CM Punk isn't healthy. He's cleared to wrestle, but that's the whole reason, as they haven't allowed them to fight. They don't want him to get hurt before we get to SummerSlam. And that, to me, is exactly – it happened many times when I was there for over a decade, that they would hide the injury, and you don't want to give it away before the pay-per-view or the PLE. So I think that's what we've seen. But it's been like, it's been a wah. So this – I wanted to no disqualification, something like that, to where CM Punk could utilize anything. And now with all the rules and Seth saying this, and if you touch him, to me, it's very convoluted. But I'm anxious to see how creative they do get.
I got one more for you here, Coach, from this Saturday night. And what I'm also looking forward to the most, because while this may have been the feud of the year, in my opinion, the story of the year right now, well, really since Cody beat Roman, because that whole deal was amazing. But the story of the company for the last 6 months, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. Holy shit. I mean, I love this story. Liv Morgan's revenge tour. You got Dominic and Rhea. I think there's first of all, Rhea Ripley, I've never seen anything like her. If you had to show someone, if someone said to you, Coach, show me what a massive superstar looks like, I would show a picture of Rhea Ripley. She is a massive star. But I think we're going to get the big reveal at SummerSlam this weekend. I think Liv finishes the Liv Morgan revenge tour. I think she beats Rhea, and I think we see Dom and Liv are in it together.
So she's minus 240 to retain her title. And books are not always right, but I always kind of like to look at that. To me, if you're looking at MVP of the summer, it's Liv Morgan. She has surprised everybody. I didn't think she had what it took to match promo-wise, to be the champion and make it believable. The one issue I always have is reality-based. Like Zelina Vega, for instance, she's 4'10", she's 4'11". Do you really need to break her arm with 3 women? That's not realistic. You wouldn't need 3 women to do that. I thought Liv was kind of in that same mold that you put Rhea, who's just a beast of a competitor and an athlete, but somehow Liv has made us forget about all that. And you're right. The storyline is amazing. And if Dom, who, by the way, he's the biggest shock of all shocks. When I've known him since he was walking around, 4 years old, 5 years old, to see what he's done. And he's really embraced his character a lot.
Can you imagine the heat? Yeah. Can you imagine the heat he's going to get one day when he's a world champion, Coach? Because it's going to happen one day.
They're going to hate it. Of course. He's got more heat. It's almost like, and I don't want to put myself over, but when I became a heel instead of an announcer, people hated it because they hated that they hated me. They're like, I don't want to hate him because he was an announcer. This is the same thing with Dom. Dom has worked his way into being a really good wrestler. He's in the ring. He can do these 2 and 3 segment matches, which I hate, by the way, but they've allowed him to grow. And you never see that, Zaz, because it either hits or it doesn't hit. And then management never gives him time. They've allowed him to work into his character. And now he's really somebody that you're like, okay, does he have the girl? Does he have this? Aw, shucks, but he fits in perfectly. And I think if what happens is what you said happens, I think the crowd will absolutely hate it, which means management will love it.
Yep. I think it's going to be awesome. Massive heat on Dom. It'll be massive heat on Liv Morgan for aligning with Dom, and just makes Rhea an even bigger babyface as she'll continue to chase for that title. Coach, excellent job here. SummerSlam this Saturday night. Tell everybody, though, behind the turnbuckle, anything you got coming up or what you've had recently that folks can check out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're really starting to expand. We do an interview show every week. We have a 3-part series right now. Part 3 dropping this week with Vince Russo, who's the original Raw writer with Vince back in the late 90s. So many good nuggets about some of your favorite superstars. We just launched a premium side. We've got the War Room, a weekly show for our premium members. And we also started a Monday night show that I'm going to get you on at some point where we do a Raw recap right after, like around 11:10 p.m. Eastern for 30 or 45 minutes. So that's what we're doing right now, but we're expanding as we go. I've been blown away by the popularity of wrestling. Never thought I'd get back into it, but look, you and I are here talking about it, and I'm really excited that we're back in the business, and I think we can help from a credibility standpoint because we've been there and we understand at the highest level. So we're super excited. So if people want to check us out, Behind the Buckle is our YouTube page and our social media, but we're growing fast. That's for sure.
And of course, Driving the Line, which everybody knows I'm on Mondays, youtube.com/@DrivingTheLine, every day live on YouTube, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. You get all the big picks, and then everyone wins all the monies. Coach, excellent job. Thank you so much for stopping by. Saturday night's going to be a lot of fun.
You got to love you, buddy. I'll see you Saturday on social media. You're killing it everywhere. And anytime you want to have me on, you know where to find me.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.